Enjoy. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the podcast. I'm delighted to be joined with today's guest, somebody who I think is doing incredible things and is definitely one of the most inspirational person on social media. I check into his Instagram account every day for that little bit of motivation. And to tell you why, I would normally at this point do the introduction, but there's nothing I can do that can give justice or service to what today's guest, Iain Liam Ward, is doing, aka the King of Chemo. Iain, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me very much.
Mate, I don't want to go into your backstory because I think coming from you it's going to be even more powerful. So talk to us about who you are, what you're doing, and then we'll jump off into a couple of different directions in today's episode.
Okay, so I'll just do the usual sort of 5-second TikTok thing that you need to tell people. So I'm riddled to bits with brain cancer. I have stage 3 and I got that over COVID, and then afterwards, when they were discovered, okay, this is actually something dangerous, you've got stage 3 cancer, I was like, all right, well, they never tell you, they don't want to tell you how many years you have, that's all Hollywood, but when you press them, they give you the stats, and the stats did not look good for me, and so I was like, fuck it, I may as well do it. Wait, can I swear on this podcast?
You can say whatever you like on this podcast, yeah. They're well used to it. Brian.
Okay, yeah, so I was like, fuck it, like, if I have very few years left, I may as well just absolutely, like, take the piss out of this whole pity vote that I can get for the for having cancer, and may as well make it work, because, I mean, like, they say there's some benefits to it, so, like, let's just double down on that sort of thing, and, yeah, it took a while, but we're at the point now where it's really catching fire, and it's terrific. It's terrific for all sorts of things. Oddly enough, because I'm using it to try and break the world record for raising the most amount of money ever for cancer research, or just any charity. And I wouldn't have actually chosen cancer. I probably would have chosen something for education for homeless people, but I was like, I've got cancer. It's going to be confusing to people unless I do that. Because in a way, I kind of always thought, like, sure, if you're raising money for a charity that you benefit from, I always think, like, you're just doing that for yourself. You're just raising that money so that you can cover your own base. It's like health insurance. And that's the pitch that I keep saying to people, like, here, don't donate for me. 1 in 2 people get cancer, so donate for yourself. It's a form of, like, covering yourself when you sort of overdo the liver with too many cans and whatnot, and then you're going off the premise on TikTok, and your TikTok has exploded. It's 1.5 million followers as of today, and all the other channels are starting to explode as well. And you've gotten a very unique way of trying to raise the most money, and the tagline you've been using is 3 years left to live, 2 records to break, 2.3 million to raise, and 0 excuses. Talk to us about how you've gone about it, because I think it's fascinating. I think what you're doing and taking yourself out and I can't, it sounds terrible from my side, but using your language, not having the pity party for yourself, turning it around, inspiring people, motivate, but it's so uplifting. Like, I have to say, Iain, like, checking in, if I'm feeling any sort of like low or tiredness on a day, I just go onto your page and start watching a couple of videos, and then I'm like, Brian, cop the fuck on. And I wish I had the motivation myself to do that. Look at whenever I'm knackered, maybe I'll just look at myself in the mirror.
But talk to us about the approach that you're taking, because you're obviously accepting donations from people, and I will put those links in the description, but you're also going around the sponsorship route, which I think is obviously leading to a huge chunk of donations coming in. So talk to us about how you're raising the money, how you plan to go about getting the 2.3 million.
The way I kind of thought of it was, all right, if basically it's like a shit version of Live Aid for one. That was the basic idea that I had, where it was like, all right, well, just be entertaining and make it that the person watching wants to donate. So one of them was I had a video game channel over COVID, just, to sort of turn something that's a bit of a waste of time into something that's a bit productive in my life, make it video game, something fun. And then so I was like, all right, we'll call it Headshots for Head Cancer. And I'll play Warzone, I'll play Call of Duty, and I'll do it on a treadmill. And every time I get a headshot, which is hard enough anyway, but make it so every time I get a headshot while And I'm not good at that game, by the way. In the first place,
it's a hard game. My cousin kills me every time.
Yeah, it's so fun. Well, it's fun when you're playing with all your mates, but like, it's a great game. COVID, like, I'd love to have been in the room when the lads were like, okay, and we're gonna launch the game now, and there's a worldwide pandemic. Everybody's got to be inside, and like, we've released this game for free. And I'd say they must have been just jumping for joy. Like, this is the greatest opportunity ever for the video game that we're producing. But anyway, so that was the idea, where whoever was watching on Twitch or YouTube or whatever, they'd see me struggling and getting so close and getting a kill and then getting killed but not getting the headshot, and then make it really fun and ask for very small donations. And then sort of in that sense, rather than being like, I need, what was that quote that Geldof always gets misquoted for? It's like, give me your fucking money or something. There's something that everyone says that he did, but he didn't actually say. It's like,
but it effectively gets attributed to him though, in terms of, I can't think of the one It's like, Luke, I am your father, and it's like, Darth Vader didn't say that. Yeah, something like that. Anyway, I should know, I'm a fucking Star Wars fanatic. No, I am your father. Anyway, so I was like, all right, that's one way to do it. And then as I was going, I was like, oh wait, actually a better way to do it would be to just straight up not ask for any donations at all, ask for followers. And then because they get sponsored, and then I could be like, all right, well, why don't I just give all the sponsorship money? Because big channels get sponsors anyway. That's how they get paid. Because I was looking into like the details of how social media works and how people get paid through social media, and then that's what I came across. So it was like, why don't I just flip that around, and rather than the money goes to me, the money goes to charity. And I still, even though there's like really charitable people, like the biggest YouTubers, like Mr. Beast, he's very charitable. So is PewDiePie. It's like, I haven't seen anyone start with that as a premise. So like, it's not my idea. It's definitely, been sort of picked from other people, but I don't know anyone else who's doing it the exact same way as myself. I would like to know, because it's a fucking great idea. So like, I'm kind of waiting with my hand here to pat myself on the back, but it's like, I don't want to do it just yet. But yeah, well, I'll give you the pat on the back, Iain, because you've got that, as you said, I mentioned the 1.5 million followers on TikTok, which is the platform that obviously has the most viral growth at the minute, and Instagram is climbing, and off the back of this podcast hopefully goes more, and sponsors will hear this, they'll reach out, and we'll have the whole host of secondary and third benefits that'll come from it.
Yeah, but fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed for sure. But I want to pull it back, just because now that we know exactly what you're doing, and a lot of people listening, I got tagged, your page got tagged by so many people to say, look at this guy, look what he's doing, and a lot of overlapping with previous guests and friends, Rosanna Purcell, Trisha Lewis, etc. And I wanted to chat to you, and we know now what you're doing, but I did want to ask, and one of the questions that I had beforehand was the pity party that you talked about. And this is something that came up as soon as I followed your content, was you went the other direction completely. I'm not having a pity party. I'm making the most of this. And I have to ask, because we haven't previously chatted, how did you approach it that way? Or how did you have the mindset to flip that? Was there a point where it was the pity party and then it went to this other extreme on the other side where it's positive, inspirational, or did you go straight to that?
No. So I had the idea before I went into surgery.
Talk to us about that journey. Talk to us about finding out and then the surgery, and take us through that a little bit.
So I had always done medical research trials, because they just absolutely fire money at you for very little health risks and sometimes health benefits. I mean, particularly in my case, it literally saved my life. Now, there's some people that will say like, well, I mean, if you were doing medical trials, maybe one of them caused it. And it's like, yeah, okay, fair enough. You could go that way either. Depends on your disposition. Are you a glass half full or half empty kind of person? But the first thing that I was doing was like, I think I did a HIV trial, or not HIV trial, a HIV vaccine trial. And I was like, zero chance that I could get HIV from this, because it was like putting up defenders that were in your body, like white blood cells that would defend against the same type of bacteria, because they all fall under one sort of umbrella. And I was like, okay, cool. That doesn't sound dangerous at all. And the doctor's like, it's not. It absolutely isn't. And I was like, so would I be HIV proof with this? And they were like, we don't know. This is research, but like you could be. And I was like, all right. And how much money is involved? And it's like fucking $4,000. Okay, I'll do that. And then so once I started doing that, I just did it kind of on and off whenever there was a suitable trial that fit me as a person. I actually didn't qualify for the very first one because my heart rate was too low because I was too fit. And it was so frustrating because the doctors were actually like, yeah, we know that the reason that you are below the 50 BPs per minute is because you're fit.
Because ultra endurance events is your background. Even was that the same before this? Yeah.
I think around the time I might have been running, or I might have been just fit in general. I can't remember because I went through phases of basically rugby, so strength training, and then no running, and then all endurance, fuck the gym, get that out the way. That's type 1 muscle tissue. I don't want that. I want to be as light as possible. Bored of that, back to rugby. And then so it was always this up and down, never anything in the middle. I think like I touch a finger to CrossFit at one point being like, oh yeah, this is sort of the middle ground. But I went in for one, and they always do a very thorough test beforehand to make sure that you are 100% healthy before you go into the trial, unless it's specific where it's like you're a smoker. Let's see, does this improve your lung capacity or whatever it may be? So I was always just sort of a healthy guinea pig, and I went in and they gave me a brain scan, and they were like, you've got a tumor, you've got a benign tumor. Benign tumor, my first reaction was, oh shit, so it's not dangerous? No, it's not dangerous. You will need to keep an eye on it your whole life, but it's not dangerous. And I was like, okay, so does that mean I'm out of the trial? And they were like, yes, you are out of the trial. This is a very serious medical condition. You've got to make sure that you keep an eye on this. And then so the second trial came in, or the second scan came in, and they said, okay, we were wrong the first time. This is not a benign tumor. This is growing, and this is actually growing aggressively. So this was in May during COVID. Let's just call it May because I always get confused with the years.
2020, May 2020?
I think 2020, yes.
Yeah.
And then they said, okay, so this is very likely to be something dangerous. We should get it surgically removed through a craniotomy, which is the most dangerous surgery that you can go through. I would have thought that like open heart would have been bigger, but craniotomy, so woohoo, I'm number one for survival on that. And then the guy said to me like, all right, you've got three choices. You can either not do it, not do the surgery, we'll keep an eye on it, and we'll keep you on chemotherapy or something and try and suppress the tumor. You can do it and do it asleep, but then we won't know what we're poking around in your head as much. We'll have an idea, but it'd be like doing surgery in the dark. And then it was like, or we could do awake surgery, and we'll be prodding around, and we'll basically be playing a very simplified version of Articulate. Do you ever Articulate? Actually, this is a podcast, so for all people who are listening, Articulate is okay. You have salt or something written on on a piece of paper, and you've got to say, okay, this is something that is mixed with sodium. It changes the sea as opposed to a river. You'd put it on your steak, you'd put it on your food, and someone would say salt. Okay, yes, correct. So they were just doing a hyper basic version of that, where it's like, okay, what's this? It goes woof woof. That's a dog. What's this? It goes meow meow, etc. Anytime during the surgery where I would not stop, but when I would slow down, when I would take a slight pause, they would first prong into my brain, and if I didn't react quickly to whatever they were asking, then they take the prong out, and then they wouldn't remove that. Whereas if they pronged in and my speech didn't slow down, then they would take the brain tissue out. And after I had the surgery, I was very lucky because I'm young. That means that the brain recovers incredibly quickly compared to most people that go through these sort of things when they're in their 60s.
How old were you in May 2020, Iain?
I was 31. Yeah, I was 31. 30, I remember my 30th birthday, I did Gale Force out in the West, and then 31st brain cancer.
Yes, it's quite a swing. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut across, but I was just to give people context of your age with being
quite
so
a swing.
young.
I swang back though. I did Gale Force again this year.
I know, yeah, which is out by me. It's literally my local, because we were trying to get this into potentially doing a overlap. We're doing it online and recording the video for anyone watching on YouTube. But sorry, continue with the story on that.
So beautiful though. We can't go past that without mentioning how fucking beautiful Westport is, and going up into the only fjord in Ireland. I made loads of videos, but like it just does not do it justice. It just to be take it in like that, it gives you a good punch in the face for how beautiful nature is. But anyway, enough with the tree hugging. Onto the more cheery side of things.
Talk us through. Yeah, so talk us through
machine in my head.
Talk us through then. So you came off the back of the surgery, and how did things look from that point?
So I was fairly chipper anyway, because they said, okay, because you're young, your brain has something called plasticity, so it's more likely to heal a lot quicker. And apparently it's so significant that if a baby has a stroke, it is quite common, it's more common than anything else, that parents, good parents, won't have detected that the baby had a stroke or a severe brain issue, because the baby will just seem like it's got a bit of a flu or something, and it's just a little bit sick, and then after a week back to normal, because the brain is able to rearrange the compartments so quickly. It's just like it is similar to a computer. I always think of it as a giant mansion with lots of rooms and with furniture in it, and the furniture are the things that work. They're the things that are functional. They're functional things, whereas the rooms are just the space. And if a room is damaged, your brain can go in and take the furniture out, move it into a different room, and then just not use that room. So the next time, fingers crossed the next time, because the next time I go in for surgery, that means that I've survived long enough for them to be able to do a second surgery. So the next time I go in for a surgery, when they are mucking around with my left temporal lobe, apparently the chances of me losing speech this time around are actually lower, because that's a damaged part of my brain. My brain will have known this is a damaged part. We're not using this for function anymore. So a different part of my brain is probably now the place where I am able to speak words, which is very interesting. And afterwards, I recovered in 6 days. And they said that it was going to be a year. Again, they told me up front, we don't have a lot of stats for people like you because you didn't have symptoms and you're 30. So it's like most people are literally double your age and they're a completely different bracket of human being. So we're going to be doing this sort of thing, and we really don't know when, recovery times and that sort of thing. And so they said a year. I did it in 6 days. So I was like, okay, this is great news then. And then in the meeting, they said, okay, we have had the prognosis, which is where they know what they're dealing with, whereas the diagnosis is where they're making an educated guess. And they said, all right, this is stage 3 brain cancer. This is severe. And they started saying like kind of a load of scary words and the rest of it. And so then they didn't tell me, but I asked, all right, well, what do the stats say for brain cancer survival rates? And they were like, how long's a piece of string? Like, sort of with the face of, please don't ask us. We don't want to tell you. Like, it's not Breaking Bad where it's like, you got 1 year to live. Walter White, you got to go start making loads of meth. So it was like, by the way, if anyone wants to buy some meth, this is actually meth. It's not salt. I sell the pink stuff. And yeah, so then from that, I was like, kind of, all right, well, can you give me a ballpark here just so I can kind of like make some plans, that sort of thing, like making meth. And so then they were like, okay, well, statistically, it's about 5 years. And then straight away they were in there with a big but where it's like, you are half the age and you're fit. Generally, like, we don't want to say you're fit and healthy because you're not, but you are, you're fit and healthy. It's your fucking job to be fit and healthy. You work in a gym teaching other people how to be fit and healthy and what, like, not to eat, etc. And so they were like, you probably will be on the higher end of the spectrum of that survival rate, but we don't want to give you false hope, while at the same time we don't want to give you bullshit scare tactic. So it's like, you're going to live a normal life in that you don't know when you're going to die. So just go about that. So it really didn't bum me out too much, because it's like, okay, I like those stats. I do like the and also the fact that it was 6 days to recover my brain, which is not related to the cancer. That's to do with your own biological health in terms of recovery, as opposed to how quickly cancer can affect you. But I was optimistic about that, and I had already, before the prognosis and after the surgery, sort of in that window, I had started thinking of, okay, I have a gaming channel. There's like, it's going to be difficult for me to ignore that I have a big scar on the, you can't really see it now too much, but like that small amount of hair that's missing. At the time, I didn't know how much my hair was going to grow back. They mentioned that you'd go through chemo and it can affect the hair. So I was like, all right, well, I can either mention right now while the scars are like very visible to the sort of channel that I have, which was, small. But it's like, address the thing and be like, all right, look, I've got brain cancer. There's no way I'm able, or I had a brain surgery recently, so now I'm adding a little charitable thing to it. And it was never meant to be anything big. It was just sort of to have a bit of fun with it, and just kind of like, hey, this is a speed run. This is for charity. Because I'd seen lots of things like that people did events for charity, and it just makes it more fun. It adds a new element to things. Just like Tour de Picnic. They used to do that a while ago, where people would cycle to the electric picnic. Yeah, so I just wanted to do it like that, just keep it kind of light. And then when they said, you got stage 3 brain cancer, this is serious, I was like, all right, well, if the fucking hospital is cranking it up a gear, I've got to crank it up a gear as well. So I was like, all right, let's double down on this then. Let's never mind this sort of, hey, yeah, we're going to raise a little bit of money for brain tumors. I was like, all right, fuck this. What's the world record for most money ever raised? And I just started playing around with it. I think one of the first things, first of all, it's actually quite difficult to find out like what the world records are for certain things, because they kind of steer you towards stuff. And it's like Terry Fox was this young Canadian guy who was, I think, 20 years of age, who I think he had a form of bone cancer. And he tried to run all the way across Canada, and he would do like 20 miles a day. Something incredible. Like, for me to do that, that's impressive. This was a kid, 20 years of age, with like, not a huge amount of experience with running, and he has bone cancer. Brain cancer, like, I can piggyback off of how just having the cancer tag, and not enough people know, but brain cancer doesn't do shit for like making me less able to do physical feats. I'm not going to get into a boxing ring, but like it does not affect like, how quickly my muscle will respond to, lifting a weight down, or how well my heart will be able to recover through a run. But like what he did, I often get compared to him. And so there is something like 880, it's nearly $1 billion amount of money that's been raised in his name, but that's like an after effect. Yeah. So it's kind of like how an artist's work becomes more valuable after the death. So there's like a foundation, I think it's the Terry Fox Foundation. So that often gets, when you say like who's the person who's like the fastest person with cancer or something like that, it often gets pulled away from what you're actually asking. But I managed to find the one for the marathon, and the one for the marathon is nice and simple, and it is just anyone who runs a marathon, unless you're a top level elite athlete, you often have to raise a certain amount for a charity, and that's if you want to compete. But many people do the marathon simply to raise money for a charity. So like, a parent dies of a particular disease, one of your friends dies of suicide, a lot of people will go in and just sort of jump on that charity just as a sort of a way of like remembrance. So the amount of money that is raised in each marathon for various charities is massive. It's in the millions and millions and millions. So I was like, all right, well, that's a good goal to go for, because it's, in that sort of what do they call it, the flow state of it's difficult yet achievable. And it's also straight in my territory because it is marathons. I had run, it was years ago, but I had run marathons before. So it's like, right, that's the one. Let's do that. And here I am.
You're breaking them up because you obviously did the Gale Force very recently, and it works as kind of training towards different events. Is the plan still to do the 52 miles in the 52? How are you breaking it down? Because I know you've got, when I went even on research for this, and I follow your page, but I'm following it for just kind of day-to-day stuff, you're doing lots of different approaches. Are you still taking a multiple race approach to it, or how are you doing it, Iain?
So the big one where it's like, if I don't make it this time, then it's just reset the charity. You know, take a screenshot of, hey, we raised this much, but like bring it all the way back down to zero and start again. And London was the original one.
Yeah.
And thankfully, COVID pushed that back from April when it normally starts. I would not have been ready for either side of it for April. Now it's in October. Fitness wise, very far away from breaking the world record for I wanted to add a world record as well to that, where it was not aided by the fact that I have cancer, because obviously me trying to get people to hey, look at me, give money to me for cancer research. Having cancer obviously adds a huge amount of an advantage to that, because it brings a lot more attention. I mean, if someone was just like, I'm raising money for cancer research, and I was like, oh yeah, so like, did you lose someone in your life to that? I was like, no. You know, people would be a bit like, okay, so why are you doing it? It would kind of take away. You need to sort of have a personal touch to for you to garner someone's money out their pockets. And so I can't remember where my tirading rant was going with that.
Yes, you were talking about London.
So I lived in I currently do live in London. I'm kind of over here for a bit of a holiday. And so the London Marathon, COVID pushed that back. So now I feel like I have a lot more time to train. And also in the last there's been a few boosts, but in the last month, that's been by far the biggest one. The TikTok channel has nearly tripled in size from 500,000. We celebrated, we made videos of like, hey, we're at 500,000, woohoo, and all this. Next up, 1 million. And it was almost like before I could even say next up, it was like already at 1.2 million. So it was like, shit, that went quick. And I had like little ideas for making like, hey, we're at the 1 million mark, but it went like that. It literally went in one night from I think like 600. And also the video that kind of made it catch the fire, that one didn't actually kick off until the next day, because TikTok have this algorithm that the first release, they throw it out into the ether, but then they do it again a second time around for the next day, just to sort of be sure. And obviously, you know, God bless TikTok. It's not without its faults, particularly around censorship, but God, the algorithm that they use to get it out there, it's an amazing net casting system that they have. And the second time around, it just absolutely exploded. It started going crazy when I was doing one of my normal workouts. I do a live workout and I try to engage with people who are looking back, being like, all right, what are we doing for the next rep range and all this sort of jazz. And then I can't remember, the views were higher than normal, but not anything crazy. But then I looked at I've got two phones. One is for the camera and the other one is for the chat. And when I'm looking on the chat, I don't actually see the followers. And then I went and checked on the camera, because I think it was, I don't know, it was raining and started having some technical difficulties or something like that. And then I just seen the follow going boom, 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 boom. And I was like, what's going on here? And then it became this weird sort of curiosity thing that I had to ask the crowd, because I wasn't able to check without ending the live stream what my followers were at. And I was like, get the fuck out of here. We are not at 600. Get out of here. No way. And then I started having to call my friends up, being like, here, can you check this? Cause like I've got like, I started just believing it, because it was like unanimously everybody was saying you're at this much, and it was all correct. So it couldn't have been a lie really, because like how would they have all known to get into cahoots?
And such a short, in the short period of time, like it just, as you said, nearly overnight, in the space of like the last week, every time I look at your channels, there's more people on it, and there's more people engaging and sharing. And is that's because even Instagram has exploded. I know it's not the same level as TikTok, but it's still, for Instagram, completely different algorithm. Yeah. It's across the board. I want to pull back on a couple of things, Iain, just because you mentioned a few things, and I have to ask, because of the way that you got the initial, where they found out during the health screening for the clinical trials, I'm very curious, and feel free to not answer this and we can edit it out after if you're not comfortable. Are you glad you found out, or would you have preferred to have lived in bliss and just not have known? And
definitely found out. Definitely, yeah. Oh, yeah. Because the difference is huge. Like the doctor that I had, Tim Jones, I was there thinking I remember it sounds like Tom Jones, but it's like I was there, Tim Cruise. No, it's not Tim Cruise. You're just thinking because you just seen the new Tom Cruise film, which is great, by the way. Watch that. Oh, it's so cheesy, but it's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Tommy Cruise, Mr. Hollywood. Unbelievable. If you want to talk about a man with endurance.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. He's converted me for sure. But you're happy you found out.
To what? What's he converted you to?
Oh, converted me to a fan of his work. I think good. I'm glad you because I've definitely a couple of people who start tagging me in Scientology posts.
Anybody got placenta on them? Yeah. It's my new protein powder.
But you're glad you found out, Iain. Is that because of the impact you've had now and the amount of awareness you've been able to raise?
Oh, not at all. No, purely selfish reasons. My survival rate has gone through the roof because of it. If I hadn't had found this out, as an example, I mean, like, obviously this is anecdotal, but like the guy from the Wanted, Tom something or other. I apologize to anybody if I've forgotten his name, because I'm so related to him in like age, type of brain tumor, all this sort of thing. I don't want to sort of compare me to him because I wouldn't want anybody to sort of think that like it's a pissing contest or something. But he went in when he started having symptoms, and that's the huge difference. And that's why I always say that I'm the most lucky man in the world. It wasn't me who said that. I came up with the phrase for it, but it was actually my surgeon, where he was like, just so you know, you are unlucky, but you actually are, of the unlucky people, you're actually incredibly lucky. Because coming in without symptoms is a really good, I mean, everybody knows that for cancer, catch it early. And this is the sort of, in brain cancer world, this is the biggest catch it early sort of thing that you can get your hands on. And that's coming in without symptoms. The only people that come in without symptoms are people who are twice my age, who are like, I'm retiring now, I should probably get a scan of everything. And the brain scan being one of them. But when you're young, you don't go in for that sort of thing unless you were in a rugby game and you're like propped forward and you like cranked your neck or something, and they're like, oh well, you've actually got a tumor in your brain. We're only seeing this now because it's like just at the edge of the scan of your neck. So it's like, that's how young people go in without symptoms. So very, very lucky.
Yeah, as you said, I love that. The luckiest of the unlucky, I think, is a very accurate description. And this is probably a tricky one to answer and probably very obvious, but I'm curious as to hear how. Have you had a huge perspective shift since you found out? And the obvious answer would be yes, but I'm not sure, because you sound like someone. I feel if we had this conversation like we met in a bar, we met at a race, actually probably more accurate. I feel like you'd probably be the same. But so your perspective is largely you're living life the same way. It hasn't had any major impact in terms of the way you are as a person, your perspective shift, nothing major like that?
Oh, well, one thing that absolutely shocks everyone, and so I've given up on bringing this up with people because the debate goes on forever and it becomes exhausting because it's not a fun one, but women, gone. Yeah, you wouldn't think it because it's obviously that big thing of like, oh, well, I mean, you got cancer. Well, I mean, like, at least you're going to get loads of girls now. They'll be coming in with Florence Nightingale symptom. And I'm glad that I kind of had the sense to be like, lads, that's not going to happen. Like, what world do you live in? Like, this is like sort of the thing that they make fun of girls over, where it's like, you watch too many, what's that thing? You watch too many Disney movies now, you think everybody's going to be a prince. I was looking at it the same way, like, how do you think that pitch to a girl? Because I don't want to sleep around. Like, I'm 33, like, I want a girlfriend. And so it's like, that's a really rough pitch to be like, hey, so I look all right, I'm fine, but like, there's a really big chance that I will die young. It's like, any sensible woman is going to be like, okay, do I want to go on a date with this guy? Because like, he seems really nice, but worst case scenario, I fall in love with him and then like he dies early, which is like, let's just not risk that and not go on a date with him, or not go on a fourth date, not go on a second date, that sort of thing. So it's like, it's understandable, but at the same time, it's like, I miss that.
Yeah, that's and weird. Not an area or direction I would have thought it went, in terms of that not where my brain went to when I thought of terminal brain cancer or stage 3 brain cancer. More accurately, apologies.
Yeah,
crazy.
They're about the same. Terminal just means that they don't have a cure plan for it, where it's like, whatever you have is, we're going to try and keep you alive for as long as possible. We're not going to get to a point. We don't have treatments that result in, all right, it's absolutely gone, continue on. It's kind of like a puncture on a tire on a bike while you're out on a race, and it's like, okay, we can put some glue on that and it will prevent the air coming out as much, but some air is still going to come out, as opposed to handing it into the shop and being like, I want a full repair on my bicycle. So how long you last, I suppose it depends on how much you ride the bike, as opposed to, or which way you ride the bike. But
and again, deep in. Yeah, not my area, but I would imagine even the positive outlook and the positive thinking has to be helping. Like anybody I know working in the space, whether it's cancer research in other areas, that the mindset and the approach is such a big thing for people in terms of their expectancy and their quality of life, etc. And I think you are crushing that, like an absolute testament to how, if you can, and I know it's not easy, but for people listening who are struggling or who have loved ones or are in a similar position, unfortunately, just taking that outlook. And again, I know, as you said, everyone is different, and this is your kind of natural demeanor, and you're quite chipper by nature, and you've got that positive outlook. But I just think there's so much value here for people to follow, check out your pages, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, all the channels, because there's just motivational content on there, purely, Iain, by you doing you. Like, it's just you talking to camera or telling people, this is my story, this is what I'm doing, and it's impossible to not be uplifted by that. And I just have another couple of questions on it. You put up a lot of motivational stuff, and you have mantras that you clearly remind yourself of. Is there any that you live by day to day now, particularly? You mentioned, we joked earlier that I go onto your page to get motivated, and it's something that the days you don't want to do it, that, you'll have to go onto someone else's page or do something different. But what's your kind of mantra day to day? Do you have a philosophy or a thought process that you run through, particularly on those days? Because you have to wake up some days and think, fuck this, what's the point? But you're grinding. Yeah, you're grinding, you're getting up, you're doing it. What's that internal dialogue look like?
Oh yeah, if anyone thinks that there's not days where I just go, all right, fuck this, where's the cake, and let me go on and play fucking Red Alert 3 for an entire day, and then just like, okay, maybe tomorrow I'll do better, and then it's like, oh well, there's still some of that leftover takeaway from I may as well just fucking eat that. Like, those days still happen, but I think it's just more the particularly with the endurance training, it's the small steps. That'd be the big thing that kind of I would kind of remind myself with over and over again, is to not go, oh my god, a fucking marathon, that's gonna take forever. It's like, it's actually a lot more simple than you think, but as long as you, I know it's such a well-known thing, but it's like the first 2 steps out the door are always the hardest ones, and it really is so true that it's just, if you want to do anything, just start doing it a little. I don't want to sift through all my emails but that I'm getting now, but like, I know that there's like good ones in there. I know that there's a lot of ones that are just like, hey, have you heard about this treatment? It costs $5,000 and it cures herpes and all sorts of other things, and it's like, okay, let me put that into the spam folder, and then it's like, hey, I work in like the US gun control. Do you want to be sponsored by us? And it's like, I don't think that's like gonna work particularly well with you and I in terms of what our things are about. But no, thank you. Come again later with something else. And like on and on, that sort of thing will go. But eventually there'll be one where it's like, hey, do you want to get on my podcast? And then you click, and it's like everything is like fitness people, and you've had what's the champion CrossFitter? Was it Brendan Fraser? Is it
Matt Fraser? Yeah,
Matt Fraser. Yeah.
And
it's like here you go. Let's get on this. Let's get on Brian's podcast, and then so it's like, all right, yeah, cool. So like that takes ages to do. It's annoying, but it's still just sort of like, don't try to get through all of the emails. Just do one, and it's the same principle for how often do people walk out of the gym having only done half of their workout? It's like very few, and that's not to do with a huge amount of willpower. That's more to do with the power of habit. That now that they're in the gym, it is now part of the habit to go the whole way through and to finish it all out. Running races is not too different. That once you get into the habit of, okay, I've set the distance as this, my time might not be what I wanted to, but my distance, it's kind of like it's non-negotiable. So I have to do this distance. How fast I do it, that's where the question comes in. Similar to like if you're lifting weights, it's not about how much weight you are lifting, but that you're doing the actual exercises. And you just got to apply that to everything, and it all just falls apart. It's like the beautiful cliffs of Moher were not formed the way they are now. They were eroded away, and now they are this majestic piece of incredible nature. Oh wait, yeah, I was in the cliffs of Moher recently. We were talking about the Killary Fjord. Yeah, that video is going viral as well at the moment. It's great. It's already surpassed the big one, the first one that was the popular one. So,
do you think, and we will come back into that just to finish up, but do you think that fitness mindset, it's what I call the fitness mindset, Iain, where, that ability to break things down, to get your foot out the door, to build on the habits you repeatedly do you think that has helped you in this entire journey from May 2020 when you got diagnosed first to the treatment to where you're at now? Has that background in fitness helped, or is it a case of this is just who you are, this is the way you've always thought, even if you weren't into fitness, you didn't do rugby, you didn't do running and jump between those two? Is it something that supported you? And the reason I ask that, it's a very selfish reason to ask that, is because if at any point, touch wood, anything ever happens potentially to me, I would take huge inspiration from what you've done. I already am, but probably even more so. But I would remind myself that the things that make you successful in fitness can help you overcome other obstacles in your life, particularly the way you see situations, getting out and doing things. Do you think fitness has done something similar for you?
I would think so, yeah, because it's similar to the way that we teach kids mathematics. It's like that is stemmed from the Industrial Revolution, but it actually, we still teach mathematics, not because everybody needs mathematics to get the factory line working better, but because it is problem solving. And I think it's that same sort of thing with fitness, where it is often something we don't want to do. It is sometimes something that we love doing. And if it's a sport, it can be something that is absolutely agonizing, but at the same time euphoric, which is kind of like life, but sped up into smaller moments. Learning how to form those things into habits, you can then equate them into other forms of solving problems. And I mean, obviously these are the things that we are both passionate about ourselves. We're both interested in fitness, but I'm sure people will be saying the exact same thing on a music podcast where they're talking about like learning a new instrument, or someone who is a linguist who is saying much the same thing, where it's like, it doesn't start off well, but then you just start learning the language more, and then you move over to Spain and you're struggling, but then you have 2 beers and you realize that it's actually flowing out of your mouth a lot easier, and it's like, ¿cómo estás? Bien, yes, sí, dos cerveza, por favor, gracias. It starts like getting out of the mouth a lot quicker, and then it's like, hey, that felt good. I was having a panic attack because I wasn't able to get to this is actually true story. I wasn't able to get to my airport in time, and I managed to tell the taxi driver where to go, and then afterwards, through all the stress, I didn't quite I think I did start crying because it was just such a stressful situation. It was like, oh, I fucking did it. I got to the airport in time. And it was like eyes were welling up. There's not a more interesting story behind that. That was just an example. That was another one of my gargantuanly sized tirades that go off the topic.
Yeah, well, and talking of interesting stories, which we won't get onto today, but if we ever do a round 2, we'll definitely do it about Liam and the nickname and how you have Iain Liam Ward as your handle on everything, and how Liam is a nickname. So you might have content on that people can check, but we'll definitely get into that another time.
It might be, by the time we come around, it might be legally changed into Iain Liam Ward. It was tried to be changed before, but my mom found the paperwork, and literally the word banished was used to get rid of one of my friends. You were banished from this house.
If there was ever the power of words to influence somebody in one direction, I think banished is a good one to use.
Oh yeah.
Iain, I will give you a chance to give everybody links, and I will put everything we mentioned in the show notes so people can go donate, or they can tag people or link sponsors or anyone that you know that's high up in a potential corporation, or anyone that would want to sponsor. Please get on that for those that are listening. But just the final question, what's next for you in terms of the fitness side, the element? Is it London? Is there something in between? Because I would have assumed it was all focused towards one race, but then when we were speaking, you mentioned Gale Force. So I'm just curious, between now and over the next few months, what's next for you?
Oh no, I love all races. The next one is the Clontarf Half Marathon, which is this Saturday, which is the 2nd of July. Then there is a sort of a sponsored by Gymshark, that's not Gymshark, that's Brewdog. Wrong, wearing the wrong sponsor. And then Gymshark are giving a tenner to everybody who comes on the run with me. It's more like a jog than a run because it's in central London and you get to see quite a few of the sites. But because of the way that we are going to be going, there's going to be traffic issues. So it is more of a kind of a jog than anything else. And everyone who shows up gets a tenner. Then I need to move house, which is a bit of a pain in the hole. Hopefully that gets sorted out really quickly, because there's another guy who got in contact with me who wanted some advice and just, hey, can you share my story? You've got a decent platform yourself, and it's for scoliosis, I believe. I hope I'm pronouncing that the right way. Mm-hmm. His dad died of it recently, and he wants to I really wish I had his details now to be able to tell you appropriately. But he wants to take an oxygen canister and carry it walking all the way from the Mater Hospital to Maynooth, and then from Maynooth to Road in Offaly, or Roads in Offaly. I'm not sure. Anyway, I'm getting off track. And so I said to him, here, fuck promoting it, I'll do that with you. That sounds like a fun thing to do. And it's like, I've got nothing better to do with that time. The Battle Cancer CrossFit Games, they are the 23rd of July. And then the next thing after that is, I think, in September with more CrossFit stuff. And then there'll be marathons that I'll throw in on the way. Rosalind Page actually said that she was going to sign up to that from 2FM. Sorry, Rosanna. I was in her interview and she was like, I'll do it as well. So there might be a good knock-on effect from that. But yeah, loads of stuff, loads of events. It's great.
It just gives people, I think, another reason to follow, because there's so many that listen to this podcast who are into either CrossFit, running, some form of fitness. And I think just following your journey, on top of the benefits for potentially bringing on more sponsors to help you raise that money, I think there's so much value there. It's the combination. What you're doing is amazing, but the content's also great because you're doing all of these things and you're documenting it as you go along. Iain, where's the best place for people to connect with you? Any links you want to give? I mentioned TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. I'll link them all in the descriptions. I'll also link I think it's a GoFundMe page. The one that I donated to, I'll link it as well in the website.
Oh, no, you don't have to put the GoFundMe page on, because everything kind of filters into itself. So if you go on to curecancer or dietrying.com, that is the website. If you want to donate, that's where you go. The GoFundMe actually goes to me. I'm trying to find a place to actually put that money so I don't end up in a Father Ted situation where it's like, no, that money was just resting in my account. But that's meant to be for a future plan of buying one of those trailers, a portable trailer. It's like a RV. I can't remember what they're called, outside of the American scope of words.
Like a camper van?
A camper van, yes. Thank you very much. So buying a camper van, and then this is for afterwards. This is very future plans for like 3 years ahead. And that's for like hiring people to do a documentary of traveling around Europe and doing a double marathon in all the 52 states and do it in 52 weeks. So hopefully make a documentary out of that. That's what that GoFundMe is for. But the just giving you get on curecancer.dietrying.com. You pick which one you want. And then the King of Chemo, you just type that into whichever platform you prefer. YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. I'm trying to keep that as simple as possible to I used to have unique names for each one. It was like, sort that out, you fucking idiot. Make it easier for them.
Yeah, and it is, and it's easy now that I think of it. It's actually just giving because it was through the Instagram link. So all of those links that you've mentioned are on the channels. And for people
if you just start digging around, they all kind of lead to each other.
And for people listening that want to cut out the middleman completely, obviously go and follow. But I'll have the links as well on the website. You can go straight through for anyone that wants to donate. Although, just to clarify, the main thing that Iain is doing here is trying to get followers so that he can bring on sponsorship. So obviously donations are appreciated, but you are hammering this message that it's not about you donating. I'm not necessarily asking you for money. I'm just asking for you for follow. If you follow me, because that helps you raise it for sponsors. So I think just to double down on that to finish for people, because it's, again, such a high reward for you and what you're doing. And again, people get great content on the back end of it based on what you're doing. So I think there's so much value.
It is the most wise in terms of money investment that you can possibly do, because it's basically health insurance, and it requires you to click a button on your phone that you can do in a couple of seconds.
I love it. And Iain, keep doing what you're doing. As I said, mate, I've been following ever since I came across you first, which actually was pretty recently, but I think I've checked into your page every day since, and I'll continue to do so. So mate, thank you so much for what you're doing.
I know, it's mad to see how quickly it's growing.
Crazy. And long may it last, mate. Long may it last. Hopefully this podcast will help push it out to even more people. Mate, keep doing what you're doing. Thank you so much again.
I will, Brian. Thanks for having me on.
There you have it. The King of Chemo, Iain Liam Ward. Wow, such a great podcast. So glad we got to connect. This was one that got put together at very short notice. I came across Iain a couple of weeks ago on social media and reached out to him instantly based on what he was doing. I think he's an incredible person doing amazing things and very inspirational to take your make it become your message and have a positive impact based on the difficult things that happen to you. So really enjoyed this conversation. Hopefully you did too. As always, if you did, be sure to take a screenshot, pop it up on your Instagram stories. This is one of these podcasts that I think if we can get out to a lot of people and get his follower count up, it will have a very positive impact, particularly when it comes to gathering money for cancer research. So that's my call to action for today's podcast. As always, hopefully you enjoyed. That's all from me. Catch you all next Monday.